Hi, good afternoon, class. Now, we're looking at lecture 6. Sorry, there was a little bit of confusion and a little bit of delay in logging in. Now, we're going to look at session 6 on persuasion. We know that, persuasion is the fourth stage of the negotiation process, and it is one of the main component of negotiation. And in this session, we are going to look at many different tactics that you can use to help you persuade with the other party. Okay, so persuasion is where the hard bargaining starts. Now, this is the learning outcome. Okay, specifically, we're going to look at the two roads to persuasion. We're going to look at 9 central tactics persuasion. We're going to look at 13 peripheral persuasion tactics. What behavior may be regarded as unethical? Now, in a negotiation, there is this gray area whereby we don't know if our behavior is considered ethical or not. So there are some guidelines to help us determine that. Okay, we're going to look at some of these guidelines. And finally, we're going to look at how negotiators can calibrate their ethical behavior. Okay, so the two roads to persuasion, there is a need to be liked by the other party and the need to be rational and accurate. So the central road to persuasion, we are focusing on the mind of the negotiator. So basically, this group of people needs concrete evidence in order to be convinced. Okay, so this central road is ideal when you are dealing with analytical people who focus on information, facts, and data. Is there any concrete evidence? Is there any statistics? Is there any empirical research done, okay, to justify, okay, to support your claims? All right, so we are looking at people who need very concrete evidence in order to be convinced. Okay. And secondly, we have the peripheral road persuasion tactics, whereby we are focusing on the heart of the negotiator. Now, this is a group of negotiators who are easily distracted, okay, whereby they make their decision based on their feelings, based on their emotions. So sometimes we can try to manipulate them based on emotions. Okay, so these are people who are easily distracted as well. Okay, now just like as I mentioned to you, there are central road persuasion tactics. There are 9 in total, and we are going to look at them in greater detail. First of all, the power of agenda. Okay, in a negotiation, parties explicitly or implicitly follow an agenda. Okay, so a savvy negotiator will use this agenda to lay out the issues in a way that reflect your priorities. Now, if you go to a negotiation well prepared, you should also have an agenda. Now, what is your defense strategy if the other party starts to show you the agenda that he wants to follow in this negotiation? Do not let the other person be in control of the agenda. Okay, you can say something like this. I get the sense that you have an agenda of how you would like to cover the issues. I would like to hear your issues and then tell you mine. Maybe we can come up with an agenda that makes sense for both of us after hearing each other out. Okay, so basically, do not let the other party be in control of the agenda. Now, number 2, the power of alternatives. If you have several alternatives for each issue, you actually have an advantage in this negotiation. Similarly, if the other party has several alternatives, there is no need for you to be defensive because you should be doing the same. You should be just as well prepared. Now, finally, we have the power of alternatives. If you have several options, okay, you can actually allow the other party to, choose from the various packages that you have prepared. They are of equal value to yourself. So you may have package A, package B, package C, and let the other party choose. Now, all these 3 packages are of similar value. Okay, you are happy if the other party pick any of these packages. So if you have the options, you are in an advantage. Now, what is a defense strategy? Similarly, okay, do not be defensive. Okay, if the other party is laying out the options, you should be doing the same. Now, number 4, attitudinal structuring. Now, sometimes people may try to manipulate you into reviewing important information. All right. So let me show you an example of a negotiation between a seller and a buyer in terms of buying a property. So negotiator A is the buyer. You know, this is the buyer's market out there. I strongly suggest you consider my offer of your house before you turn it down. There may not be any more buyers for a while. So the seller gets a little bit defensive, but actually I receive a lot of interest in my house. The buyer say, in this market, it sounds very unlikely to me. So the seller begins to get a little bit defensive. Just last week, a buyer from overseas saw my house and said that he will make an offer of $230,000 this week. You can ask my agent about it if you don't believe it. Then the buyer says, okay, well, you got a last offer of $230,000. I would like to offer you $1,000 more and close the deal. Okay, so you can see that sometimes people may try to manipulate you into reviewing important information. So in this scenario, you can see that the seller is actually manipulated into reviewing the last offer of $230,000, and this particular buyer immediately make an offer of $231,000, just $1,000 more, and want to close the deal. Okay, so research your BETNA, develop your reservation point. Do not be easily manipulated by the other party. Now, number 5, the power of contract. Sometimes negotiators may want to invent irrelevant alternatives for you to consider, knowing that these alternatives are unacceptable. We call this the psychological contrast effect. Okay, so let me give you an example. A real estate agent shows a buyer several houses. They were all extremely unattractive, overpriced, and the buyer becomes somewhat depressed. Okay, after viewing several properties, they are all very unattractive. Okay, at this point, the agent shows the buyer the houses he wants the buyer to seriously consider. Actually, there is this particular house that the agent wants this buyer to consider. But before doing that, he deliberately showed the buyer several other houses. They are in extremely bad condition, okay, overpriced, okay. And when he finally showed the buyer the house that he wants him to consider, there is this contrast from what he has seen previously that are all in very bad condition to what he is seeing right now, an acceptable condition. The contrast is so great that the buyer is more motivated to close the deal. Okay, so this is the power of contrast, showing you that products or services and then immediately show you something that is reasonable. Okay, so what you see previously and what you're seeing right now, the contrast is so great that you are motivated to close the deal or to make an offer. Number 6, commitment and consistency. Now, there is this consistency principle that describes us as human, that we want to be consistent in our beliefs, our feelings, as well as our behavior. All right, so a savvy negotiator may try to get verbal commitment from the other party. Now, be mindful that you do not immediately say yes. Okay, observe your body language. You don't nod your head all the time. You don't smile at the other party all the time, but rather say something like this: it depends on what you can offer me. You throw the ball back at his side of the court. You make him come up with attractive deals for you. Okay, now let me give you an example. A car salesperson asks the customers about the intention to buy. Are you ready to buy a car today at the right price? Now, most people will agree with this statement because, okay, there is no obligation. Okay, I say yes, it doesn't mean that I have to buy a car. All right, however, it becomes a powerful psychological commitment because we view ourselves as potential buyer. So maybe during the weekends, you get really bored, okay? You don't really know what to do, but you always have a keen interest in cars, okay? So maybe during the weekends, you just go to the showroom just to look at the latest model, look at the features, and maybe arrange to have a test run, go and drive the car on the road, go a few rounds, just for the thrill and excitement. Okay. However, the car salesperson say, hey, are you ready to make a purchase if you can get it at the right price? Now, your mindset immediately change. Maybe you're just there, just to spend a boring afternoon doing something that you like, go and look at the features of the car. But suddenly, the salesperson give you this idea that you can become a potential car buyer. Wow. Okay. With the car, you can take your parents to grocery shopping, or you can take your girlfriend out for movie dates, or you can even drive into Malaysia, okay, with a few of your best friends. There's so many things you can do with a car, and that gets you excited. Okay, you start to imagine yourself as a potential car buyer or a potential car owner, and the questions you start to ask is very different. You ask about the loans, the interests. You ask about COE, how much it costs, what is the finance package, etc. You start to ask questions as though you are going to be a potential car owner. Okay, so be very mindful what you agree to in negotiation, even if it appears to be harmless. It doesn't obligate you to buy a car, but it actually change your mindset. Okay. Now, number 7, framing effect, capitalizing on the half full or half empty glass. Okay, now in order to understand this particular tactics, I drew a diagram over here that you can see it is a transparent glass that is half filled with water. So the point whereby it is half filled with water, we call it the reference point. Now, if this negotiator want you to make changes, he will get you to look at this part of the glass that is empty. He will be telling you, other people's glass is all filled with water. Yours is half empty. Why is that so? All right. So if your mind is fixated on this part that is empty, you may be thinking, oh yes, why? Why is my glass half empty? Other people's glass are all full. Mine is half empty. And you become dissatisfied. What happens when you're dissatisfied? You want to make changes. You are prepared to take risk because you want to fill up your glass. Okay, so a savvy negotiator will get you to look from the perspective that he wants you to look at. If he wants you to make changes and take risk, he will get you to look at the part of the glass that is empty. However, if the negotiator wants you to remain status quo, that means don't make any changes, he will get you to look at this part of the glass that is filled with water. He will probably be telling you, in this local climate, okay, where everybody is doing so badly, okay, you still have a glass. Okay, you're doing very well as compared to others. Other people's glass are all empty already. Okay, but yours is still filled with water. You should be satisfied. And yes, if you look at it from this perspective, yes, okay, I want to remain status quo, and I'm not prepared to take any risk because I still have half a glass of water. Okay, so basically this scenario over here is telling you that somebody may try to get you to look from a particular perspective. Okay, let me give you a few other scenarios. Now, if you were to look at this particular diagram, the one on my left, okay, from where you are sitting, okay, this is definitely a letter P, okay, from this person's perspective and from where you are sitting, this is a letter P. However, if that person is looking at it from a different perspective, if the person is standing at the opposite side, okay, he will say, no, this is not letter P, this is a letter D. Okay, because he is standing at the other side, he is looking at it from a different perspective. Similarly, from where you are sitting, this is a letter W, but for the person who is at the opposite side, this is a letter M. Okay, similarly, from where you are sitting, that is a letter U, But for the person at the opposite side, this is a letter N. You realize that, okay, this particular picture doesn't change at all. It depends on which perspective you are looking at, okay? And it is going to affect your decision making because you are looking at things from a different perspective, even though this particular picture doesn't change at all. All right. So this is what we call the framing effect. Okay. Depending on which perspective you are looking at. Sometimes a savvy negotiator may try to manipulate you into looking at the perspective he wants you to look at. Okay. So be very mindful about that. And let's move on to the next one. Okay. Fairness heuristic. It is all about being fair to other people. Okay. And in session 2, we look at different rules of fairness, equality, equity, as well as needs-based rule. Now, an opponent will probably put forth a fairness ploy. Now, be ready to present a counter argument, okay? Because what is fair to them may not be actually fair to you, because fairness is something that is very subjective. So be ready to present a counter argument that is favorable to your own perception of fairness. And number 9, which is also the last central tactic, it is time pressure. Now, the person who has a deadline or a time pressure is usually at a disadvantage. What we can do is that, okay, we can turn that disadvantage into an advantage for ourselves. We set a limit to how long you will negotiate. Now, the one with a deadline actually sets a deadline for the other party. Now, if the other party is genuine in wanting to close a deal with you, okay, he will have no choice but to meet your deadline. In other words, you get things moving a lot faster, okay, when you actually set a deadline for the other person. So you can turn that disadvantage into an advantage for yourself. Okay, so these are the 9 central tactics that we just looked at. Now, I want to share with you 13 peripheral tactics, okay? There's a lot of theories here. It will take you a little bit of time to internalize all these ideas, okay? Now, let us look at each of them in greater detail. Number 1, status. Now, a person's status, there are 2 types: primary status characteristics as well as secondary status characteristics. Now, primary status characteristics are indicators of legitimate authority. That means your rank in a position, your rank in the organization, your position, your job title. Okay, so these are indicators of legitimate authority. How many subordinates you have? What is your position in the organization? All right. So negotiators of equal status, we have high unequal status. We have high status people negotiating with low status people. Okay. We also have high status people. We know that they usually talk more, even if they do not necessarily know more than you. High status people usually control the conversation. Now, if you go to a meeting, now as a fresh diploma graduate, let's say you decide to start work, all right, you're probably at the bottom of the hierarchy because this is your first job. It is an entry-level job. So you probably take instructions from your manager, from your supervisor. All right. And at the meeting, you can expect your manager to dominate the discussion. Okay. You can expect your manager to talk more, and you can expect your manager to dedicate tasks to you, and you have to carry out those tasks. Okay. Simply because of your lower level in the organization as a fresh diploma holder. So these are primary status characteristics. As compared to secondary status characteristics, they are not indicator of legitimate authority. So for example, a person's gender, age, race, etc. So men have more influence than women. Older people have more influence than younger people. It has nothing to do with a person's ability, but people act or behave as if they do. Okay. Number two, gender. As I mentioned earlier, gender is a secondary status characteristics. Now, research has shown that men are more successful than women in terms of pie slicing. In a distributive bargaining situation, men are actually better at doing it. They get a larger share of the pie. So maybe by nature, men tends to be more assertive, whereas women tends to be more nurturing. They focus more on relationship. And as a result, okay, research has actually shown that men are better in terms of getting a larger share of the pie. So who you negotiate with is important. All right. The gender of the person whom you are negotiating with is an important criteria. Okay. So men tend to be more assertive. They fight for a larger share of the pie, whereas women tend to be more nurturing. They tend to focus more on building relationship with the other party. Now, number three, social network. Sometimes it is not what you know that matters. It is who you know that matters. Now, information becomes obsolete very quickly. Okay, whatever you learn right now may become irrelevant or redundant in a few years' time. Okay, and so knowledge change very quickly, but so it is not what you know that matters, but rather who you know that matters. So sometimes people may open doors for you, create opportunities for you. That is why I always encourage students, whenever there is an opportunity, attend workshops, attend seminars, attend conferences. You may think, wow, it's so boring, I have to attend conferences. But actually, those moments are opportunities for you to meet people in the same industry. Make yourself visible, make yourself known to these people, especially the industry leaders. Okay, who knows? Okay, should there be an opportunity, they may just remember you and touch base with you and create that opportunity for you, open doors for you. Okay, social network is important. Number four, physical appearance. Your physical appearance is the very first thing that people look at you and start to form an impression. Okay, they start to form judgment of what type of person you are. Now, this in business, we call it impression management. Okay. Therefore, physical attractiveness is important. You may be thinking, well, it's not fair to, based on a person's physical appearance, but this is human nature. You look at all the K-pops. Okay. Look at all the stars, idols. Many of them are actually very attractive. Okay. Because generally, we like to look at attractive people. Okay. In fact, okay, attractive people are more effective in getting what they want, regardless of their actual skills. They are perceived to be more highly valued. They are perceived to be more talented, kind, honest, and intelligent. Okay, simply by being physically attractive. All right. Well, you may say it is not fair. Yes, it is not fair, but this is just how the world operates. We want to look at attractive people. Okay, we want to look at attractive things. Okay, and it doesn't mean that all of us should go under the knife, go to South Korea for cosmetic surgery or aesthetic surgery. What we can do is to, put a little bit more effort in the way we dress, our personal grooming, the way we present ourselves to others, okay, the way we carry ourselves, the way we speak to others, etc. Okay, we can create a positive, good image through putting a little bit of effort. Okay, it doesn't mean that all of us should go under the knife, simply to make ourselves a little bit more attractive. Now, number five, delayed liking. Okay, now there is this research done, which is quite interesting. Okay, it shows that people who grow to like somebody are more effective in getting what they want than if they show their liking for the person immediately. Okay, there are four options: completely positive impression or liking for that person. Number two, initially is negative and then turn positive. Number three, negative. And number four, initially positive and then turn negative. You may think that number one has the best outcome, but actually number two has an even better outcome, which is your liking for that person initially was negative, but then after you spend some time with them, you get to know them, it turned positive. So delayed liking was highest for the other party who was initially negative, and then subsequently become positive. This actually has a better outcome as compared to just creating positive impression right from the start. Okay, number 6, to err is human. There is nothing wrong to show the other party that you have your weaknesses, you have your flaws, you're vulnerable in certain ways. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it shows that you're so natural, okay? You're just a human like everyone else. It actually endears you to them by showing that you have little flaws, little weaknesses, etc. Okay, so don't be so afraid to put on your to give people the impression that you're very good in everything. Okay, it is not necessary for you to do that. It is okay for you to show others that you are just as vulnerable as everybody else. Number 7, priming the pump. Priming the pump, it is all about the environment in which negotiation takes place. Okay, subtle clues and information in the environment. For example, soothing music at the lounge versus rock music at a bar. Okay, it definitely is going to change your behavior. Now, if it is soothing music, you will relax, you enjoy the music. If it is rock music or a pop concert, okay, you start dancing, you start singing, okay, because it is very upbeat. Okay, a boxing match promotes violence on TV versus family-friendly shows that promotes love, harmony, as well as relationship building. So as a negotiator, if you get to choose the venue of the negotiation, you are actually in the better position. Okay, because you can choose a suitable environment based on your own criteria. Okay, so for example, I am a beautician. Okay, I want to sell certain beauty packages. Okay, I'm going to invite you, my client, to this lounge whereby you feel relaxed. I'm going to offer you a glass of wine with soothing music before I start to share with you the various beauty packages that I intend to sell to you. Okay, I can create the ambience, I can create the mood. Okay, and I can do that before I start persuading you. Okay, so the person who actually chooses the venue of the negotiation has an advantage. If you look at this lecture theatre, I would say that it's a little bit too big for a class like you, so you're scattered everywhere, but you can see how conducive it is because I can adjust the lighting, how bright or how dim I want the lighting to be. We are enjoying the aircon. It is very comfortable. The seats are comfortable. You have access to the visualizer, the desktop computer. It is a very conducive environment to study. Okay. And therefore, SIM provides such environment for all of you to make it pleasant for you as you study. Okay, so the environment in which negotiation takes place is an important criteria. Number 8, reciprocity versus complementarity. Now, reciprocity means both parties display similar tactics or behavior. So, for example, I am very competitive towards you. You are also very competitive towards me. So that is reciprocity. Display similar tactics or behavior. Complementarity means one party displays dominant strategies, the other party shows submissive behavior. Okay, so I come to the bargaining table, I'm very competitive towards you, and you display submissive behavior. I know, okay, I'm going to, really hit hard and make sure I get what I want because I am very competitive and you are showing submissive behavior. Okay, so it is important to know your motivational orientation, whether you're somebody who is individualistic, competitive, or cooperative. It is also important, okay, for you to observe the other party. What sort of behavior are they displaying? Are they coming here and showing competitive behavior, or are they cooperative towards you, or are they just individualistic? Okay, so look at the behavior of the other party. Number 9, social proof. We look at the behavior of others to help us determine what is desirable, what is appropriate, and what is correct. So an example over here, college students and homeowners donated blood or money to a charitable cause in much greater number when shown a list of others who have already done so. Now, let me just give you an example. Let's say you go to the shopping mall. Now, in front of this bubble tea shop, there is this long queue. You may be thinking, wow, what is so special about this bubble tea? To get such a long queue, people are willing to wait half an hour, wait for an hour just to buy the bubble tea. There must be something very special. I do not want to miss out. Therefore, I am also joining the queue. So what does that mean? The fear of missing out. Okay, people are doing it. It must be good. I want to do the same. The fear of missing out. Okay, so we tend to look at the behavior of others to help us determine what is desirable, what is appropriate, and what is correct. So let me just give you an example. From time to time, the Red Cross may come to various educational institutions, okay, to ask staff and students to donate blood. Okay. Now, if you are somebody who has never donated blood or never occurred to you that you want to donate blood, okay. However, your group of best friends, everybody say, hey, no, let's do something good today. Okay, let us all donate blood. Now, if your group of best friends, everybody is doing it, there is a higher chance of you agreeing to donate blood also. Okay, simply because all your friends are doing it and you want to be just like them. Okay, so this is what we call social proof. Okay, we tend to follow the behavior of others. We tend to be influenced by others. If other people are doing it, I also want to do it because it is the right thing to do and it is the appropriate thing to do. Okay, that is social proof, the fear of missing out. Number 9, reactance technique. We tend to react negatively when others try to control our behavior. Now, many of you, I think the majority of you are teenagers, okay, your attitude towards your parents. Let's say after school, you're really tired, after school, how many hours of lectures and tutorials, you work on reports, and by the time you reach home, it was at 9 p.m., and your mom starts to nag at you, why is your room so messy? Why didn't you clean the room? Why didn't you wash your clothing? When your parents starts to nag at you, what is your reaction? Sometimes students get frustrated. They go into the room, they slam the door. Okay, with an attitude problem. Why? Because they don't like people telling them what to do. They don't like people nagging at them, and they react negatively when someone tries to control their behavior. So maybe your parents have a curfew for you. By 9 p.m., you should be home. Okay, and you try to come back later. Okay, by the time you reach home at midnight, your parents starts to nag at you and you feel that they are controlling your behavior. So what do? You react negatively, you slam the door, you don't talk to them, etc. Okay, so this is what we call reactance technique. We react negatively when people are controlling our behavior. Now, this is actually very obvious during COVID-19. Now, I believe the international students were not here during COVID-19, but that time it was mandatory to put on a face mask the moment you step out of your door. Okay, and there are some people who didn't like to have a face mask. It is really hard to breathe. It is very uncomfortable in a very hot and humid weather. And we actually have social distancing ambassadors to walk the street, okay, to patrol the street, to remind people to put on their mask properly. And there were cases whereby such social distancing ambassadors got verbally abused or physically abused, okay? Because people don't like others telling them what to do. You must do this, you must do that, you must put on your mask. That is why going to prison is one of the most serious punishment a person can experience, okay? When you go to prison, your life, your freedom is basically taken away from you, okay? What you eat on the daily basis, what you do on the daily basis, being locked up for 23 hours in a day, okay, is miserable, all right? Because your freedom is taken away from you, okay? And you have to ask for permission for everything you do. So in other words, okay, people tend, okay, to react negatively when others try to control them. Number 11, foot in the door technique. It is about making a small request followed by a larger request. Okay, so a person asks for a small request, and it is agreed. All right, the other person agreed to do it, and because the other person agreed to do it, you ask a bigger request. The probability the person will agree to the larger request increases when the person previously agreed to a smaller request. Now, I want all of you to try these tactics at home. Go home, tell your parents, hey, mom, can I have $50? $50 for a tertiary education student? Yeah, sounds reasonable. Your mom said, sure, okay. All right. When your mom agreed, immediately ask for more. Mom, what about $100? Okay. Previously, you only asked for $50, right? When your mom agreed, immediately ask for $100. Okay. The probability that your mom agreed to the larger request increases because she has previously agreed to a small request. Okay. Try this at home. Now, the next tactic, okay, door in the face technique. Door in the face technique is the opposite of foot in the door technique. Door in the face technique, it is known as rejection then retreat tactic. You deliberately ask for a bigger request, knowing that the other party is going to reject you. You immediately drop it down to a smaller and a more reasonable request, okay, and see the reaction of that person. Now, similarly, I also want you to try this at home. Okay, imagine you only want $50, but you deliberately ask for more, knowing that your mom is going to reject you. Mom, can I have $200? You're crazy. Why do you need $200? And your mom rejected you. Okay, so immediately you drop it down to a smaller request. Mom, what about $50? Now, from your mother's perspective, she has previously rejected a $200 request. Now your request is only $50. It's a lot more reasonable. The probability that your mom agreed to a smaller request increases because she doesn't want to reject you all the time. The first time you ask for $200, she say no. Okay, now you only ask for $50. She doesn't want to say no to you all the time. Okay, so the probability of her agreeing will be higher. Even though originally you only want $50, but you deliberately ask for more to get that rejection, and you make that person feel bad about rejecting you, and then you drop it down to a more reasonable request. Okay, similarly, try this at home and see if it works on your parents. Now, the last tactics, that's not all, is what we call sweetening the deal. Now, sweetening the deal, you see this in a lot of retail shops. Buy two, get the third one free. Buy one and get the next one at 25% off. We see this all the time. Okay, this is to entice people to make a purchase and also to entice you to purchase more by giving you a deal that you think is too good to be missed, and therefore you are persuaded by them. Okay, now I want you to just very quickly look through the 13 tactics. Okay, of course, you won't have time to absorb everything immediately. I just want you to go back and read through the lecture notes, and if you have any questions, do please ask me. Okay, now I'll be continuing the lecture very quickly. I just want you to take a quick look at the 13 tactics. Okay, now unethical negotiation behavior. What is considered unethical? Now, this is the gray area, isn't it? Whereby we don't know if our behavior is considered unethical or not. Okay, this is this gray area. And there are certain telltale signs that we can follow. Okay, now lying definitely is considered unethical. What is lying? Lying means that the speaker deliberately lie, misrepresent information, and the person who is being lied to use this information, and by doing so is damaged in one way or another, emotionally, financially, etc. So that is lying. So maybe people want to lie about their positions in the negotiation, their interest, their BETNA, their reservation point, etc. Okay. However, lying can be costly, okay, because a person may face criminal charges if that behavior is considered illegal. Okay, and it also damage a person's reputation and trustworthiness. Now, you will definitely want to build up your reputation. So, if possible, refrain from lying. Okay, people are going to be very wary of you if you lie, and people don't trust you anymore. Now, what are some of the other questionable negotiation strategies? Okay, which is number one, we have traditional competitive bargaining. That means hiding a person's real bottom line or making very high or very low opening offers that are outside the true bargaining zone. Okay, which make it very unpleasant to even start a negotiation. So, for example, I want to sell you my product. Now, market price for a product like this probably $50. Okay, instead of quoting somewhere around $50, I tell you I want to sell this product for $200, which is outside the true bargaining zone, which make it very difficult for the other party to make a counter offer because the opening offer is so ridiculously high, nobody is even interested, okay, to make a counter offer anymore. It is outside the true bargaining zone. Now, number two, manipulation of an opponent's network, whereby you try to weaken an opponent's position by influencing his associate. Okay, so let me just give you a scenario. Let's say in a car buying situation, you go to a car showroom, you want to purchase a car, and I'm the car salesperson, okay? And of course, buying a car is such a big investment. You probably bring your parents or you bring your best friend or maybe you bring your girlfriend or your boyfriend to go and make the decision together with you. Now, in the car showroom, I'm the salesperson. I try to persuade you. However, it is so hard to persuade you. Okay. You have a mind of your own. You are not easily convinced. You are not easily persuaded by me. So what do I do as a car salesperson? Instead of trying so hard to persuade you, I will persuade your mother, your father, your best friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. I will persuade people around you. Why? Because if I'm able to persuade them, they will in turn persuade you. I will get your loved ones to persuade you. Now, from your perspective, I'm just a car person. Okay. I have my own agenda. I just want to earn the commission. That is from your perspective. However, if these are the views of your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your best friend, you're more likely to be persuaded. Okay. So if it is so hard to persuade you, I will persuade people around you. Okay. And get them to go and persuade you. Okay, so that is manipulation of an opponent's network. Instead of persuading you, I will persuade people around you and get them to persuade you in return. Now, renege on negotiated agreement. Often deals are closed without formal contracts. Okay, so sometimes a gentleman's handshake is all that we use to close a deal. Okay, now when there is no legal or formal contract, okay, and it is not legally binding, is it okay to subsequently accede this agreement? Okay, simply because you change your mind. All right. Some people say that, well, there's no contract, it is perfectly fine. Other people say this is based on trustworthiness. Okay, you agreed to this agreement and then now you are going to renege on this agreement. It is not ethical to do that. Okay, so this is another questionable negotiation strategy. Retracting an offer, the moment you put an offer on the bargaining table, you should not retract it. Okay, this is what we call bargaining in bad faith. And finally, nickel and diming, continuously asking for just one more thing after a deal has been closed. After you have reached an agreement to still ask for a 1% discount, can I have free gifts? Can I have this? Can I have that? Even though a deal is closed. So this is what we call nickel and diming. Now, moving on to the next one, sins of omission and commission. Okay, sins of commission is active lying. Okay, active lying is regarded as more unethical than sins of omission, simply withholding information. Okay, definitely active lying is more unethical than simply withholding information. And let's move on to calibrating our ethical behavior. The word calibrate means to regulate. Okay, so what are some of the tests that we can do to calibrate our ethical behavior? Number one, the front page test. This is also known as light of day tests, okay, whereby you then take up this challenge. Would you be completely comfortable if your actions and statements were printed in full on the front page of the local newspaper? Will you be comfortable if the entire world were to know about your behavior? Now, if your answer is no, I don't like others to know about what I'm doing, then maybe this particular behavior is considered unethical. Okay, do you dare let the whole world know about your actions and behavior on social media, for example? Number two, reverse golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. Ask yourself this question: if the table were turned, how would I feel if the opponent did this to me? If the answer is no, I wouldn't like it very much, then maybe you shouldn't be doing that to your opponent, because you don't want them to do this to you. Then maybe you should refrain from doing that to that person. The third one, role modeling. Would I advise others to do this? Would I be proud to see my best friend, my child, my girlfriend, my boyfriend behave in this manner? Okay, if your answer is no, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. The fourth one, third party advice. Consult a neutral third party to see how that person regard your behavior. Okay, get somebody who is not involved in this negotiation, get their advice. And finally, to strengthen your own bargaining position, if you are adequately well prepared for your negotiation, there is less temptation to lie and less temptation to behave in an unethical manner. Okay, now with this, we have come to the end of lecture 6. Thank you very much. I will see you during tutorial. Thank you.